Hi, it's Dwyer, GamblersAdvisory.com, here with some after the fights commentary on three noteworthy fights that took place this weekend. The first, Aamir Khan against Paul McCloskey. The second, Berto against Victor Ortiz. And the third, Juan Manuel Lopez against Orlando Salido. Let's tackle them one at a time. First, Aamir Khan. I was unimpressed. Not only with Aamir Khan, I was unimpressed with the referee. Just imagine watching the Rumble in the Jungle, where Ali is rope-a-doping George Foreman. In other words, he's allowing Foreman to hit him to tire himself out with the objective of taking out a tired George Foreman in the later part of the fight. Well, Paul McCluskey, who is a very talented fighter, was rope-a-doping Aamir Khan in the middle of the ring. He has his hands down. He's daring Aamir Khan to come forward to try to hit him. Understand, McCluskey's game is subtle. So when Aamir Khan comes forward and throws a lot of punches, McCluskey will put up one hand and he'll turn his shoulders. He's turning away from the punches. He's taking the sting out of the punches. This is an accomplished defensive fighter using upper body movement to avoid his opponent's punches. You know it was effective because Aamir Khan is supposed to have a big punch, right? He dropped Marcus Maidana early. He dropped Dimitri Salida early. He has dropped several men early, but yet here he couldn't cut McCluskey. He couldn't drop McCluskey. Quite frankly, McCluskey hardly looked staggered in the first half of the fight, right? Aamir Khan threw an inordinate number of punches. He was trying to make a statement, right? Those punches never dazed Paul McCluskey. McCluskey, in my opinion, was never close to going down. Now, given Aamir Khan's very suspect history in the later rounds, take a look at the 11th round against Andre Kotelnik. Take a look at the 11th round against Marcus Maidana. One wonders what would have happened if McCluskey had been given an opportunity to actually fight the second half of the fight. I understand Aamir Khan was pitching a shutout on the judges' scorecards, but understand, the whole strategy of McCluskey's was to get Aamir Khan to tire himself out. And let's face it, McCluskey probably looked at the Marcus Maidana tape and realized that Khan had nothing in the later rounds of that fight. So, there was a clash of heads. Let me say, this cut that Paul McCluskey ended up with was less severe than the eye injury that Eric Morales had against Marcus Maidana. Right? This is a title fight. People have paid good money to come see the fight. The cut that McCluskey had wasn't even bleeding after the fight. There is no time in the fight where this cut is bleeding into McCluskey's eye and his vision is impaired. And so, to stop this fight as quickly as they did, I believe the referee in the Lennox Lewis Vitaly Klitschko fight years ago gave Klitschko with a much deeper cut more of an opportunity to compete than the ref did here. I thought the refereeing was atrocious. Let me also say, too, that I thought Aamir Khan's comments after the fight were ridiculous, where Aamir Khan said he was going to knock out Paul McCluskey had the fight continued. Let me just say, I thought there was a knockout possibility had that fight continued, and it was you, Aamir. Aamir Khan went for the knockout in the first 6 rounds. He didn't get it. Take a look at Aamir Khan's history. You're going to find out that he rarely knocks out guys late. The Paulie Malignaggi fight was stopped. Malignaggi was still on his feet in that fight, right? Aamir Khan is a early KO artist. If he doesn't get you early, then he gallops around the ring and runs away from you. So I thought his post-fight interview was disingenuous. Also, this dichotomy he's trying to set up between European champions and world champions, he must not know who David Hay is. He must not know who Carl Froch is. He must not know who Joe Galzaki was. Europe has had many great champions, many dominant champions, many guys right now who are at championship level. And, this idea that he has to leave Europe to fight competitive fights or big fights, I, he needs new management if he really believes that. He's getting bad advice if that's how he thinks. Unimpressed with Amir Khan in the fight and after the fight. Let me shift gears. Very impressed with Victor Ortiz over Andre Berto. Ortiz, very talented. Um, as far as I'm concerned, boxing's not really about heart and all this other stuff. It's really math. It's really being able to perform and know what to do when certain situations and opportunities present themselves. And I thought Victor Ortiz neutralized Andre Berto's right hand for most of the fight. I understand he got knocked down multiple times, but I thought he neutralized Andre Berto's right hand. I thought he did a great job of coming in low and having his hand up to block Berto's right hand. He seemed to realize that Berto doesn't throw that right hand to the body much. Berto is a headhunter. So if you come in low and you block that right hand and you get inside, you would find that Berto doesn't fight well inside. Victor Ortiz is the better inside fighter, and he leveraged that into what I thought was a pretty convincing win. Word of advice to Victor Ortiz and his crew: Victor, you need to listen to Danny Garcia and the rest of the guys in your corner, and you need to learn how to clinch when you're hurt. When he gets up off the canvas after being knocked down, in the round where he ends up knocking Andre Berto down at the end of the round, all I can say is maybe that worked this time, but that's not going to work on other occasions against more skillful boxers, right? You need to learn how to clinch your opponent, slow down the action, just like Floyd Mayweather did when he got his bell rung by Shane Mosley. The idea that you could always get off the canvas and engage in a shootout, maybe that works for young guys, but pretty soon you're going to be at an age where you're going to realize that when your bell has been rung, you need time to recuperate. I know very few elite fighters who get by without figuring out how to clinch and how to slow down the fight when they're hurt. Let me also say this, too. I know HBO had a field day pointing out that Victor Ortiz didn't throw many jabs. Let me just say that Andre Berto is good at countering the jab, and Andre Berto is explosive with hand speed. And I've always been a believer that, one of the ways you stop a counterpuncher is by not giving them anything to counter. So here, Victor did throw a high volume of punches. He just didn't throw a jab that would give Andre Berto a chance to counter. I thought most of the things that Victor Ortiz did were strategic. They were effective. That's why he's the new welterweight champ. Congratulations, Victor Ortiz. Let me also say, too, Juan Manuel Lopez. There's another champion who doesn't know how to clinch. Several times he gets his bell rung by a very underrated Orlando Salida, and Salido, and all I can say is Lopez didn't know how to step forward, didn't know how to tie up, just didn't know how to handle himself when he was hurt. He's in with a guy who is throwing dangerous hooks. And what does he do? He gets hurt, he gets knocked down, he gets back up, and he engages in a shootout. That's the wrong thing to do. If you're in a shootout and you realize the other guy has a gun and has shot you once already, why would you continue to engage in a shootout with a guy who has accuracy, right? I thought that Juanma fought a very high wire fight. And I think that it came back to hurt him. Let me just say, too, that I'm not sure if Juan Ma ever beats Salido. Understand, Salido hasn't been knocked out for several years, and I thought Salido had certain structural advantages. Salido operates best, believe it or not, when he's backing up, right? It's when he's in fights with guys who back away from him, like the Gamboa fight, where he's in trouble. So Juan Ma was coming forward. He was right in front of Orlando. And all I can say is that's exactly what Salido needed, right? Because he was then able to time him. He was then able to counter him with hooks. He was then able to fight backing up. He was then able to step forward when Lopez was hurt. And, all I can say is if I'm Lopez, I really have to think long and hard about whether I want to fight Salido again. I know Lopez, after the fight, said he wanted a rematch. He needs to look at the film. He needs to realize that that's a very bad matchup for him. I thought Salido's right hand was just devastating all fight. Let's go one step further. If Salido looks at the film of this, he's going to realize that uppercut, the right uppercut, was open the entire fight. And of course, Salido also landed some pretty devastating left hooks as well. Juan Ma's defense is really for punches that come, at close angles. He doesn't know how to handle a wide swinger. And Salido knows how to swing wide and use distance to completely discombobulate his opponent. Let me also say this too. I thought the referee stopped the fight maybe just a tad early, but I still think that was a good stoppage because, and probably helped save Lopez somewhat in his career, because the time when fighters really get badly hurt is when they're getting hit flush, like Lopez, who had already been down, got up, was still getting hit flush, and of course their opponent is close to 100%. And here, nothing Lopez did seemed to slow down Salido. Right? He had, he was not dropped. He was 100% lucid. He was not cut. He was not hurt, and he was up in Lopez's face, hitting him flush. I thought that was a good stoppage. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments for me here on YouTube. Visit us at gamblersadvisory.com. And remember, we're just here as boxing fans, all of us, discussing our views. We don't have to agree on anything, right? All we're doing are discussing fighters and fights. So when their next fights are announced, all all of us have a certain idea on what each other thinks and what the fighter's strengths and weaknesses are. Thanks for watching.